Good afternoon and welcome. My name is Amy Haynes and I am the Marketing Manager for Communication Products here at Macmillan Learning. I'm joined today by my colleague Heather Halter-Kimball, who is our Learning Solutions Specialist, and Heather will be leading the product demo today. This is the final week in our April series of brief webinars where we've been highlighting some of our favorite digital resources for communication. Everything you'll see today is available in Launchpad, which is our online platform that delivers an ebook, homework, activities, and other learning resources. For this final week, instead of just focusing on one feature in Launchpad, as we have been doing in previous webinars, we're using each session this week to highlight multiple resources and features in Launchpad for just one course. And today's course is Human Communication, or Intro Communication. So Heather will spend about 15 minutes demoing in Launchpad, and then we'll open it up for questions. So anything you want to ask, anything you'd like to see again, that will be the time. Our goal here is to make these sessions brief and useful for you. So if you are brand new to Macmillan and you've never seen anything in Launchpad before, welcome. We're glad you're here. If you've used our books but haven't ventured into the digital side of things, or maybe you've used Launchpad but want to see some other things in there that you could use differently or use in addition to what you're already doing, we hope that you might learn something new here today. There should be something here for everyone. So before I pass things over to Heather, I just want to go over a couple of housekeeping items for using this GoToWebinar platform. So this is what you should see on your own desktop. It's your attendee control panel. And you've been automatically connected here using your computer speakers. So if you can hear us, you should be all set, but of course, if you would prefer to call in on your phone, just click this little phone call button and a new window will pop up and give you the phone number to dial. You may also notice that you are automatically muted. This is just a setting to eliminate background noise. We will easily unmute you when it comes time for questions. And speaking of questions, there are a couple of different ways you can engage with us while we're on the line together today. You can use this raise hand button, and it looks like a hand, and it lives up here kind of on the top left corner of your control panel. And just click that, it will signal to me, and I can unmute you if you need to ask a question or say something. And then at any time, you can use this questions box. And it's on the bottom half of your control panel. You just type in your question, hit the send button. It will come to me and I will either type an answer back to you or maybe hold it for the larger group if it makes sense. So with that, I will pass things over to Heather.
All right. Oops. I do that every time. Thanks, Amy, for the great introduction. Thank you guys for coming today. I'm really excited to have you here. Again, my name is Heather Halter, and I'm your Learning Solutions Specialist. There we go. I'm your Learning Solutions Specialist for Communication with Macmillan Learning, meaning I provide training and pedagogical support for instructors using our Launchpad products. Prior to coming to Macmillan, I got my master's in communication from the University of Central Florida, where I actually wrote my thesis on using social media in the classroom. So the idea of using technology while teaching has been a passion of mine for years. I taught public speaking for 5 years in a variety of formats, face-to-face, hybrid, and online. And most recently, I was the course director for public speaking at Full Sail University, and I led my department's implementation of Speech Class, which was the predecessor to Launchpad. Now my job is to help instructors use the same, albeit updated technology that I used when I was teaching as well. So it's really a great dream gig. And we'll cover this again more at the end. But if you do want to learn a little bit more about Launchpad, any of the features, or if you want some help getting it set up for your course, I'm happy to meet one-on-one with you and we'll make sure you're up and running. Today, what I want to look at, though, in our time together are going to be some Launchpad features especially designed for the Human Communication course, specifically the Launchpads for Real Communication, Choices and Connections, Let's Communicate, and Communication and You. We're going to look at the self-quizzes, various chapter activities, and some video resources that are available to you as well. Give me just a second to jump over. So I'm moving from my slides into actual Launchpad itself. And what I do want to start off with real quick is just a very brief overview of what Launchpad is for those of you who may not be familiar with it. Of course, Launchpad is the name that we use for our online platform that accompanies our textbooks. So everything in here is designed to help enhance the classroom experience for both you and your students. We have resources for instructors and students as well. I'm currently in the Launchpad for Real Communication, but know that the functionality for all of our Launchpads will be exactly the same. The main difference will just be that each book, of course, has its own curated content. But we can see here that everything is divided up by chapter, and we do have some additional resources down towards the bottom. I'll cover those a bit at the end. But any chapter that you'd like to explore the resources for, simply click to open the chapter, and it'll expand down to reveal the contents that we have for that particular chapter. And if there's anything that you want to check out, simply click on it to open it up, and you can preview this here. In this case, this is the Real Communicator box, which is actually in the Real Communication textbook. It's a feature we have in there. To get back to that main page, you just click Home. And if you decide that this is something that you want to have your students complete for a homework activity, all you have to do is click on this blue Assign button that pops up over on the right-hand side of the page. Select a due date on the calendar. Make sure you have a point value selected, and then click Assign. And just like that, you'll notice that that particular chapter jumps to the top of our table of contents under this nice assignments heading here. And then that activity now has this blue to do button next to it, which indicates to your students that this is something they need to complete for homework. And of course, as the instructor, that means that that's now set up as a graded assignment for you. Worth noting that all 4 of the texts we're looking at today do include some of the same kind of general contents, some of which we've covered in our previous webinars, and Amy can provide more information about that later. But I do like to mention that each Launchpad will have a full ebook built into it, so students can read online. We also, though, have a downloadable offline ebook that students can then read. They don't need to be connected to the internet. It's also mobile friendly, so they can read it on their phones and tablets. Each chapter in Launchpad will also have its own pre-made quizzes. There's also a full test bank so that you can build your own quizzes if you'd like. We have our learning curve adaptive quizzing. And lastly, each chapter will also have instructor resources. So these, of course, your eyes only for now. We have an instructor resource manual, which will give you sample outlines, suggestions for activities and discussion questions. And we also have lecture slides as well, downloadable PowerPoints that you can use in your class or edit them as you see fit. So now let's pivot specifically into our content designed just for the human or intro communication class. Worth noting that these items will be slightly different from book to book, just because each book has its own little flavor and approach to the topic, and as a result has its own unique specific features. Excuse me. But we can largely generalize these into self-quizzes, chapter activities, and video options. Excuse me again. We'll start off by looking at some self-quizzes that actually are available in all of the titles, and that's going to be the Personal Report of Public Speaking Anxiety and the Personal Report of Communication Apprehension. These were developed by researcher James McCroskey. They've been used in the industry for several years, and we actually have an interactive version of these that students can take to rate their level of communication apprehension, either in general or specific to public speaking. You can assign one or both, just kind of depending on the focus of your class. I know everyone teaches this course a little differently. But it is kind of the magazine style quizzes. You click your answers here. The nice thing about these is the math is a little tricky to do on these because it's, you know, if you answered strongly agree on these 5 boxes, it's 4 points, and here it's this. So the nice thing about this is it will do the math for the students. They rate their agreement with statements on their fear in various communication situations. And then it will show them not only their level of fear of communicating, but maybe if there's something specific that they're afraid of. Maybe they're more afraid of group communication than interpersonal communication, or public speaking versus the other two, whatever it may be. It will provide students with feedback on that. So it's really helpful to give at the start of the semester. Additionally, though, you can make a copy of this activity by coming to more options, selecting copy, and then you could assign this as a post-test as well if you want to see if their communication anxiety has gone down over the course of the semester. The Launchpad for Real Communication has some additional self-quizzes. These are going to be, in this case, they're labeled, "What about you?" And again, it's magazine style, no right or wrong answers. Students just click their answers to the questions, and on the next page, they're shown their results and what that sort of means. And students would actually see results there. Now, the next thing I want to take a look at are what I'm going to call chapter activities. And these are where there's really kind of the most variation between the text, but at the same time, they're the same general type of activity. Real communication in particular has many call outs in the text where there's little activities that students can do to apply the concepts of the chapter into their real lives and the world at large as well. And one such feature, for example, in each chapter is communication across cultures. These, of course, as I said, are called out in the book, but they're also set up in Launchpad as a more interactive and easy to assign option. Plus, then the instructor can see the results of these activities as well. So in this case, students are presented with the same reading passage that they would technically see in the textbook, but then they're also given a box to submit their answers to these questions as well. So this can make this really easy to assign as homework. And then again, as the instructor, you can view what your students typed in these boxes by coming to the results button in the upper right corner. Real communication has several of these for each chapter. Again, there's communication across culture. We also have wired for communication and evaluating communication ethics. So these are all activities that, again, referenced in the book, but can easily be submitted as an actual homework assignment by assigning them in Launchpad. I now want to jump over to one of our other titles to show you its specific feature, and that's going to be the Launchpad for Choices and Connections. Just to reiterate, again, functionality is exactly the same. You can see this table of contents looks the same. We've got our assignments heading, and then you just click to expand, open a chapter. Now the flagship feature in this title is how to communicate. We again have one of these for each chapter. Students are basically presented with a communication situation that they might find themselves in. Of course, we're looking at adapting to cultural differences here. So students are presented with the setup to a scenario. We see a video play out to see how, in this case, culture might become an issue in this communication scenario. They're then asked to think about how they would react to the situation, submit their answer, and they move on to the what if. But what if things don't work out as shown? Here then, students are presented with two different ways that this same scenario could play out, and they're asked to type up responses to both. So these can be really great reflective and application activities for your students. All of our Launchpads will, of course, have some additional features. Depending on the title, they may be divided up into the chapter already, but one way that can make things really easy to access is by coming over to this resources button on the left-hand side of the page. And this will give me access to what I wanted to show next, which are our video options that we have in here. So I clicked on content by type, and this allows you to see nice, quickly, at a glance, everything that we have available on Launchpad. But what I really want to focus on are the videos and video activities. As the name suggests, we do have sample videos. These are all the how to communicate features, but I wanted to jump down to some of these other videos here. We do have videos for various topics. In this case, we've got a little scenario that shows I language being used. And then, of course, students see the scenario play out and are asked to reply to questions. In addition to these sort of topic videos, we also will have sample speech videos in here as well. If you do cover an emphasis on public speaking in your course, we have sample speeches. And there will also be some smaller chunks of those speeches as well, where you can see specific parts of a speech or needs improvement videos, which are the examples of what not to do in your speech. In addition to the resources button, you can also, as I said at the beginning, scroll down to the bottom of the table of contents here, which will show some additional options, such as our speech outlining materials. And if I can jump back to real communication here for a minute, it's also got our instructor and student guide to video assessment. We covered this in one of our earlier sessions, and I'm happy to meet with you if you have specific questions about it. But we do have what we call video assessment, which allows for either you or your students to submit a video to Launchpad, and it allows for time-based comment and rubric grading functionality. So one way you could use this in this class, self-submits can have students search out videos that relate to a specific concept, add them to Launchpad, and then you can have sort of a video discussion board. Or a comment-only video could be used if you, as the instructor, have a video you want to share with your students. And again, they can comment, possibly even grade the speech as well. And we have the feature called Live Event that you can use to assess students' end of semester presentations. So let me jump back to my slides here. Hopefully you've gotten a really good idea of what a great asset Launchpad can be for your human or intro communication class. Remember that we have self-assessments, chapter exercise features, video activities, along with pre-built chapter quizzes, learning curve adaptive quizzing, an ebook available both online and downloadable, and our video assessment program. So with that, I thank you for your time. Again, if you want to learn more about this, I'm happy to meet one-on-one with you, which we'll discuss how you can set that up. And in the meantime, then, I'll pass it back to Amy. Oh, Amy, you might be on mute, I think. Oh, well, hopefully Amy pops back on. Looks like we may be having just a few technical difficulties here. It looks like we're having some microphone problems here, so I may go ahead and fill in for Amy. I don't know if any questions came in the chat just because I can't see those, but I will go ahead and add real quick. One question that's been coming up on a lot of these calls is, do our resources incorporate, or how do our resources work with learning management systems? We do offer at many schools what we call deep integration with Blackboard, Canvas, D2L, and Moodle. And in these cases, what happens is you first, as the instructor, go into Launchpad, select the activities you'd like your students to complete, set them up as an assignment by clicking the Assign button like we saw, and then you go into your LMS course, select the assignments you want students to complete, and you're essentially setting up a link out to the activity. This then gives students a seamless way of accessing the resources. Of course, this also allows our content to live right alongside any of your content as well. And then it provides the students seamless access to the resources as well. The benefit of this then, students only have to remember one website to log into, and then for the instructor, the scores will track back into your LMS gradebook. So really handy there. And it looks like Amy is having audio problems. So Amy, if you had any questions, come in the chat. Feel free to, oh, wait, are you back? No, I thought I heard something. All right, well, Amy, if there's any other questions that came in, feel free to chat them to me. I'll be happy to address them. Let me exit out of something here real quick. And what I will go ahead and give a plug for then, what we've got up on the screen right here is how you guys can get in touch with us if you want to learn more about Launchpad. The first link up here, meetme.so/Heather Kimball. That will allow you to set up a one-on-one meeting with me where, again, we can cover anything you've seen here today in a little more detail. If you just want to check some things out, we can do that. Or if you've already decided you want to use this for fall, or maybe even just try it out for the rest of spring, I'm happy to help you get set up with that. The next link we have on here is to our catalog page, macmillanlearning.com/communication. That will allow you to see all of our titles that we offer for all of our communication courses, mass, interpersonal, public speaking. We also have journalism and film as well. Launchpad Works is our sort of general Launchpad resource page. You can see case studies, statistics, real stories of people who have used Launchpad to their benefit in the class. And for anything else, please feel free to message Amy. She's our marketing manager and can answer pretty much any question you may have about anything. So amy.haynes@macmillan.com. She's happy to do anything she can for you. And then one last slide, Amy, if you don't mind clicking to the last one here. We do have one more webinar coming up. Remember, this has been a series of webinars we've done all month. Tomorrow, we're going to have our last one that focuses specifically on Launchpad for our public speaking texts. So there's still time to sign up for that. It's going to be at noon Eastern time tomorrow. And just a plug for some of our past sessions. This week we've been focusing on specific courses. So yesterday we spoke about interpersonal communication. Tuesday we spoke about mass communication. Before that we looked at how to build quizzes and tests in Launchpad. We also talked about the Go React video assessment, which I briefly touched on today. We go into a lot more detail there. And we've kicked it off with Learning Curve Adaptive Quizzing, hands down our most popular feature. And if you had registered for any of these sessions, you should have automatically received a recording of the session. If you didn't, or if you're interested in getting it anyway, again, you can email Amy. And if you wanted to register for tomorrow's session, you can go to this last URL up here, tiny.cc/comspringtraining. Again, thank you guys so much for your time. We really appreciate it, and we're looking forward to helping you guys get into Launchpad.